How you doing, everybody? ABC Action News Chief Meteorologist Dennis Phillips. I want to give you the latest advisory on Hurricane Lee. The storm is definitely getting weaker, and that'll continue. It's a slow process. The reason it's going to be such a slow process is because it's a very large system. Now, I've been talking about this for days. I compare it to a nor'easter, and with good reason. See, most hurricanes, in fact, all hurricanes, the strongest winds are right around the center of the storm, the eye of the storm. It's called the eye wall. So the majority of the extreme winds with a hurricane might be 5, 10, 15 miles tops away from the center. Well, with a nor'easter, a winter-type storm, or in this case, with what is turning in from Hurricane Lee to more of an extratropical system, or a nor'easter type, the winds are much larger. They're expanding 150, 200 miles out, but they won't be as strong. So what happens with a winter-type storm, you might have 60, 65-mile-an-hour winds, and they could extend 150, 200 miles out. That's what's going to happen with Lee for the Northeast. Now, areas like Cape Cod, you're going to have coastal flooding. Not so much surge. Surge comes up in the north and east quadrant of a system moving off to the north. So wherever landfall occurs, just to the north and east is where the bulk of the surge is going to be. But in the case of coastal New England, you're going to have it off to your east somewhat. We're not sure exactly how close it's going to get. The models continue to hint a little bit more west, but regardless, even if it's 100 miles west, or 100 miles east rather, of the coast, the winds are going to be the same. You're talking about 50 to 60 mile an hour winds, gust a little bit higher, and with a northerly flow, there is going to be some coastal flooding. So again, as this system transitions from what is a truly classic hurricane, a tropical system with the heaviest winds near the center, in this case, by Friday, or Saturday at the latest, it'll be really known as more of an extratropical, non-tropical system. And those tropical storm force winds are going to extend 250, 300 miles out. So it doesn't matter where the center makes landfall for the wind. You're all going to see it. Now, the big question is the I-95 corridor, and that is a really, really tricky call right now. My gut tells me there will be some wind 40 to 45-ish, maybe gusting a little higher. The farther east you are, the stronger the winds. Not to mention, the northwest quadrant of a storm like this is always the rainiest quadrant. So if that center stays 100 miles offshore, northwest, much of Maine, into Vermont, and even New Hampshire, you're going to have some serious rainfall totals. Now, Maine is going to get it either way. All of Maine will have strong tropical storm force winds and a ton of rainfall. Surge, again, north and east of where that landfall is. And as you see above me right now, the Hurricane Center, the official track continues to keep it east, just to the east, headed toward Nova Scotia. And now we're getting close enough that I wouldn't expect any dramatic changes either way. So let's recap, okay? Hurricane getting a little weaker as it runs into colder water. The overall wind field will expand, but it will weaken. So we're talking like a nor'easter. And by the way, I've been in many nor'easters where they have hurricane force winds. So let's don't minimize the fact that nor'easters can have strong winds. It's just they're different types of storms. Instead of the heaviest wind around the center, you got the wind that could extend a couple hundred miles away from that center. So landfall point is a little less important with a storm like this than it would be with a traditional hurricane, all right? So I'm going to be doing live updates over the next couple of days. Bottom line, coastal flooding along the New England coastline. Areas like Boston expecting winds, I'd say, of about 50 to 55. Could be really tricky for the FSU-BC game on Saturday if they cancel it or if they play it. I guess it all depends on the track, but it's going to be a close call. And again, obviously, heaviest rain northwest in an area that has already had a ton of rain over the last couple of weeks. So I do think flooding is going to be an issue. There's a ton of trees in that area regardless. So even with 55, 60 mile an hour winds, you're going to see power outages because of trees going down. Floridians, we get these kind of storms pretty regularly, but we don't have the kind of tree cover that they have in the Northeast. Again, I'll be updating 24/7 as always. Hope you keep it right here for the latest non-hyping weather information as we track Hurricane Lee.